Hello everyone, Nicolas Versin from UE. Thanks for joining today. Really happy to have this session on a very nice and interesting topic. And I'm today with Frédéric from Apgar. Hello, Frédéric.
Welcome. Thank you. Hello, everyone.
Yeah, happy to really happy to have that session with Frédéric on let's say interesting or joining two different topics that are always a source of heated debate, heated discussion on LinkedIn and in conferences and so on. So basically data literacy on one end, data strategy on the other hand, or maybe data and AI literacy, data and AI strategy. We'll see that and how we can what they have in common, how we can join them, and trying to share some practical tips in here. So maybe to start, a quick intro. Maybe Frédéric, if you want to introduce yourself. And Apgar.
It seems that there is a little technical problem because it's not broadcasting to LinkedIn.
Oh. Okay.
On LinkedIn, it still not start.
It says you are live, but no.
Do we need to activate one of the?
Shit. I don't know. It looks good on my end, but
it looks good. It's live now.
Okay. Okay.
Good. So
I don't see it on my end, but
I've got feedback that it's working. So
okay.
the glitch
Anyway,
seems only to be on our end.
No problem. So let's continue. Sorry for everyone if you are live for that part. So anyway, go ahead and present yourself, Frédéric.
Thank you. So I'm Frédéric Robert. I'm director at Apgar. I'm in charge of the business line for data advisory and innovation at Apgar. So basically, the data advisory is the upfront consultancy supporting our customer in their data management journey on the shaping and scoping part on data governance, data literacy, and data architecture topics.
Nice. So maybe to present myself also for those who wouldn't know me, I'm Nicolas Versin. I'm the founder and CEO of UE. UE, we are a SaaS company, and basically we have a platform to help organizations manage, animate their data analytics strategy and on what we call a value-driven angle. So really making sure that you animate all the strategy, all your different programs, all your different workflows with value in mind, and ultimately being able to demonstrate the value from data and AI investments. So maybe to jump directly on the topic. Let's start with a couple of maybe I wanted to show you some stuff. Before, because it's a Gen AI craze, so I asked ChatGPT to and Bing Chat, but whatever, to generate me an infographic saying what are the main change with data strategy, and basically he got confused. So not sure what happened there, but maybe I should have said let's do it in English or whatever. But you see some words, but he got
a little disturbed. Yeah.
And so I tried something else, saying give me an image of a man who's facing the change of their strategy in an organization, and so then he has that kind of hero, and so I don't know, on the right side there is some puppet, so I'm not sure what it means, but so anyway, I don't know what to do with that, but it's what AI thinks from of those challenges. So I believe maybe it's confusing for many people, including for AI. So that was a quick, let's say, a quick icebreaker in a way. So Maybe I always like to start with some definitions, because I always see that sometimes, we speak about things and we we don't necessarily put the same concept behind words. So, so maybe to start with data literacy. So, how would you define data literacy? What do you put behind that? And yeah, so start with that.
So yeah, thanks. So for us at AppGar, how we see data literacy is not just e-learnings and trainings about data topics, but it's really a concept, an organization that is supporting how to push data acculturation, data concept across the whole organization to support that transformation. And it's really key to address multiple topics. So of course, trainings, because it's the hard part about how do we help people to better use the data tools, but also it's a lot about the valorization of job description, of data roles. We will see now across all the organization in each part, either in the data factory, but also in a lot of business departments. And finally, it's also creating this transformation by creating assets. How can we better communicate? How we can create that single language across the organization? And it's starting a lot with a better communication around data also. And for me, that's around those three pillars that make a real data literacy program to support the organization.
Oh, okay, maybe I have questions, but we'll come to that later. So, and maybe I'll define then the second part of the discussion, which is data strategy, because this is where we meet, and this is where we have discussions. So, so what we put behind data strategy, and I'm sure we meet there, is defining what the priorities, basically, what you want to achieve, and how you're going to measure that success, how you're going to define success. So I think if I had to define strategy, data and AI strategy in one sentence, that would be not defining the how, because the how is more your operating model and your organization and maybe your data literacy program. So, but really about focusing about the what you want to achieve, and sometimes there's a confusion on that. So that's why I like to be a bit more specific with that. So and obviously when you define the how, the what, you need to take into account different things. So the first one is making sure that you know the use case and you identify the use case. So being precise, but more specifically, how you're going to enable value for the different business lines, for the organization, and so on. And how you're going to make the link then between your, let's say, AI strategy or analytics strategy and data strategy, because all of that is part of how you're going to what you're going to deliver. And so that's the first part, being able to have those different dimensions and really having use cases, knowing how it's going to generate work on the data, how you're going to prioritize the different streams, and so on. You need to balance in the what you want to achieve in the short term with what you want to achieve in the long term, because that's also really important. And I think we'll discuss a bit on that also, because that's we have similar challenges around that. And you need to have a plan for adoption, and that's something really important for me, because it's not only when we talk about the what, it's also about measures of success. And the measure of success means I want whatever I deploy to be adopted. It's not just about building data quality, about building AI models, about building whatever you want. It's about building things that people will use and that will change the organization and will be adopted. And the strategy need to care about that. It's a key dimension. The dimension, the strategy, yeah.
And also, it's a big way to be sustainable and more economic.
Also,
you want to do something successful.
You want to do something successful, or I mean, and that's one of the points. If it's not adopted, then maybe it's part of the learnings, and you need to stop initiatives. So that's why you need to know that adoption is part, and what you're going to do about it, so that you can also decide to stop things and not just pile things that are costly and useless. So actually, that's my almost last point, which is you need to have a strategy that is built around products, because what you build has a lifetime. So it's not only about designing what you build, but also designing about how you nurture things. And that's part also of your strategy, because as part of your strategy, you need to nurture your existing, let's say, portfolio. And the last one, and we're going to discuss on that after, is also you need to define how you're going to have feedback loops on the strategy, because the world is changing and it's not going to go as you plan for a lot of different reasons, good reasons, bad reasons. For example, I always use a bad reason example, which is COVID. You know, everyone in the world know that what happened with data strategies defined before COVID. But we can take a positive one, which is GenAI. So I assume that no data strategy in January 2023 had anything to do with GenAI, and then it came and everything
changed the game.
It changed the game, and so it changed not everything, but it changed a lot of things. So and obviously you don't wait for your next 30-month cycle to change your strategy to adopt GenAI, or at least it would be so. So that's a quick definition. So I think we have those two angles. You know, what is data strategy, what is data literacy. So maybe we can highlight a bit what we've seen, you know, on both our clients. What do you see as the challenges, you know, for data literacy? Because everyone is talking about that. All the studies I read say basically it's one of the top 3 challenges about being successful to deliver value or to become data driven, or etc. etc. So why?
Yes, thanks. So clearly about challenges, we see new challenges emerging. And probably one of the biggest that came up is we are after a big period of creating new data. So a lot of organizations are drawing into data. And what to do with all those data? How do we catalog them, or do we put them, store them, use them, is a very, very big challenge. And for that, that's why we need a plan. We need to be prepared, and we need to prepare our organization also from the people side. So that's why where also data literacy and data strategy are coming together, because they address that point of drawing into data. A second big challenge for me is also data is a very nice asset, but it can be a double-edged sword. You can be very powerful if you have good data quality, you're using it well, and you can take decision based on them. But if you let them, and if you don't really care about them and how to create data pie with them, you will end up with misusage, or the usual data swamp case we all learn about.
So you mean, it's a nurturing exercise, basically.
Yeah, exactly. We need to take care of those data and to keep them up to date each time. Another challenges for me is also a big, and you mentioned it by GenAI, data and digital transformation are generating a lot of mindset and maturity levels that needs to be aligned. So you need to come together, business people, IT people, data people, or on the same table. And of course, you have different paces. Some people will be very fast because they need to learn it very fast. And some people will have a pace more slower, and you need to keep them with you. So it's very important to align on those two axes on maturity and pace. And also the fourth challenge I see is we are coming in a more and more regulatory and compliance world. We see that there is a big challenges with new regulation in Europe and so on. They are introducing regulation around AI and Gen AI. So we need to take care about how this regulation are taken into account to avoid to rebuild everything once you have deployed to production a data pipe and you realize it's not compliant with the GDPR regulation or whatever. So it's a very key challenge also to address.
But and so here you mentioned the changes. I mean, the changes of why data literacy. So maybe what I have in mind is also, why don't people succeed with that? You know, what is the things that are in the way to be successful with data literacy?
And for that, probably one I see is we forgot that data is a living ecosystem. So with maybe truthfully thought we can achieve things in one step. And basically, it's a journey. So it will be a multiple milestone, multiple steps going forward to reach the summit. So it's very important to understand that when you put the finger into data and data management, it's a never-ending story. So you need to adapt, you need to update, you need to change the direction, you need to see forward the next step to each time improve and change your strategy. And that's
Okay, so
probably a big why we are thinking it has an end when in fact it's not really ending.
okay, so it's looking at the data literacy program as an ongoing process, let's say, not as a one-time exercise. So, and
Exactly.
what I've seen is, and I don't know how you feel about that, but I've seen many organizations launching data literacy programs that are kind of standalone training programs. You know, like, oh, we're going to train, and then their measurement metrics was like how many people we train on stuff. And I must say that I never saw the value of that, and so in a way that's kind of a challenge also, you know, to look at it purely as an academic exercise, and so when people, I think you have numbers about that, you know, then when people actually need to do stuff with data, you discover then that that they're not skilled or they're not trained, or you need to retrain them or whatever. So kind of maybe there is a disconnection there.
So e-learning and training on data and data solution are important, but when I look back at my personal experience, I also know that it's by putting my hand dirty into the box, by doing things that I learn into data. And so training and learning is by definition not sufficient. And we have studies and also experience that represent that. We know that just e-learning, just video, just reading does not take into account that we will retain the information. To retain completely the information, we know it's a multiple level where you first read, you then train, then you practice, and then you try to teach other people. And that's really when you start also sharing that information to other people that you're really getting the knowledge applied in the day-to-day usage.
Yeah, that's a good point. And so yeah, and so if we make maybe the how to say, the parallel with the data strategy challenges, I think, and in a way it's similar, is that I think the main challenge I see usually with data strategy is that either it's not really defined or when it's defined, it's how to say, there's many people who come from an engineering background in data, and they take the problem from an IT standpoint and with a bottom-up approach. And I think that the main obstacle or the main pitfall that organization, you know, go into and face each time is to start from, let's build a data platform and it will enable use cases, or let's build before a data lake, or let's build a new architecture for pipelines, so let's build whatever. And so it's taken more as let's build it and they will come, more as a technical exercise. And each time then it's a kind of elusive how you're going to get value there, and then it's usually a big project, so then even the time is there, and many times it ends up being something over complex or misfit or unaligned with what people really need. And then we maybe go back to then it's really difficult then to train people on that and to make them use it and so on. So I think that usually the main challenge is taking things from a technical angle and not from a business value angle, and starting from the end. So I think for me, the one big shift that is missing most of the time is to not make the shift and not start from what do we want to achieve, how we're going to deliver value, what are some concrete use cases we want to do, and then don't forget to build the plans of what it means afterwards. Because of course you have challenges with data availability, data quality, with data literacy and so on. So, and this is why we connect, you need to not overlook that. You need to have an honest assessment of your capabilities to assess how difficult it is and to be able to prioritize things. But most probably you have quick wins. Most probably you have things you can do first, and that would be a first step, or things like that. So and in a way, when I think about data literacy, maybe that gives you a first scope on why you should focus on data literacy, because you don't take the whole company as saying we need to train everyone to be data literate, but then say, okay, I want to deliver that. What does it mean? And that's the first thing what we're going to probably detail together. So I think for me that's the main challenge with defining the strategy, because obviously afterwards all companies, all organizations are struggling with their legacy stuff and how much what they have, and with investments and skills shortage and training. But I believe that most of that becomes much more addressable once you have a clear path and something where you can build step by step. And that's the point of the strategy, that, to drive that path and to build that path.
And also, when, as you mentioned, when you realize that it's not just about putting all new technology and shiny technology everywhere in place of your legacy. Basically, the target and the transition is a hybrid between what you already have and what you want to add.
Exactly. When you look at it from what you want to achieve, then you can be much more pragmatic on what it actually takes, and maybe find shortcuts. I mean, it's going there step by step, and anyway, that's I like this story, because what you say, because when if you look at for the shiny stuff, you will always be behind. I mean, always. It goes too fast for. I mean, it goes too fast for everyone. It goes too fast for startup. It goes very too fast for big organization. So you can't adapt, and you can't change, saying, "Oh, there is this cool stuff here, and I need to rework everything." So there will always be legacy, and you need to. Everyone needs to live with a piece of that. And yeah, that's a very good point. So. So hopefully that's a good and for you in the audience, if you have questions, please let us know. Don't hesitate to ask. We can bring questions on directly on screen, and happy to interrupt. So obviously that was a good intro and scoping for you. So I think we see the synergies pretty well from the introduction, how they attract. So let's dig a bit into it. So I think the first one we saw is, or we want to talk about, is the synergy on value. And because this is where we meet at the end, it means both are here to serve business value. The data strategy is here to define what value you want to drive, and obviously you need to have the data literacy part, because this is how you're going to again build adoption and make sure people have the skills to adopt, but also first understand why. And that's maybe the starting point. Why are you doing that? How it's going to change their life? What's going to change in their processes and things like that? And then how it's going to and how they're going to be skilled to adopt that. But also because then, and I think that's a question, then I think you're able to better understand on what you need to train people pragmatically. And I think that boils to your point, that if it's concrete, then it means you're going to train people on things they're going to use just after. And for me, that has always been a key thing. I always hated going to just training courses for a week, because then if I don't use it just after, or even e-learning, it's boring. I mean, honestly, or it may be interesting on the moment, but then you lose.
You forget about it, and you get 1 month into the operational work, and
yeah, and then when you start again on saying, oh no, finally I can use all the skills I learned, you discover that you have none of it anymore. So that's so that is king. So maybe one question for you, Link, on that, because I think that articulation is really important for me, and really the key to start of building a program that is purpose fit. But what would be the I mean, there's different challenge behind that. How do you build a program that is like this, fit for purpose for those different people, to how to address those different audience? Because it can look complex, in a way, saying, if you look at it saying, oh my God, then I had a simple program for everyone, and now I have a complex world.
Yeah, and on that part, it's it's very important to navigate on the different level. Of course, you will want to rationalize and do some courses and content for everyone because everyone is a data questioner. But of course, you will need to focus on the personas within the organization. So of course, you will have more sandboxes, self-service, on-demand kind of support. And that's why in our vision for data literacy and data academy, we support a lot the type of kind Genius Bar that is here to help with expertise the different people. But more and more, you need also to be almost towards the person. So we want to support the person in their journey to data. So we need to be able to assess them as a workforce concretely on what they need in terms of resources, knowledge, and skills to better do their work on data. So that's very important that the literacy program is targeting the different audiences, personas, and we are trying to create a path specific almost for everyone. And that's tricky because that means you cannot really standardize it and apply it everywhere. So there is not magic formula.
Okay, yeah. So, but maybe, yeah. So maybe you can still find some, let's say, individual bricks that you can reuse here and there and build, on demand programs. Or do you think that e-learning platforms help there? If you build your program in chunks and then build a tailor-fit program for each people, for example.
Yeah, and clearly that's where we see new generation of e-learning platforms that are not just about videos and quiz, but at some point really about with interaction, exercise, someone you can talk also almost in real time to have feedbacks on what you see. So to be completely hybrid and reactive in a way.
Okay, no, that's okay. So basically, what you say is that instead, so it's really rethinking what literacy program is. It's not just training; it's more support and enablement resources, and really being it as a growth plan or growth strategy for individuals. So that's
And we really want to see it as a framework to monitor how the workforce around data are progressing in their transformation.
Okay, no, that's really interesting and probably easier to measure success in a way, because basically you have a direct link between the success of the literacy program and the success of the initiative that drove them in a way. Good. And so maybe I don't know if you have anything on the value side or but otherwise we can move to the next one.
Also, one point I see on synergy on values between the strategy and the literacy program is it helps to pass the message towards people. So, as you mentioned, it's very important that the strategy is aligned with the business objective of the organization. And that's where the literacy is helping to create that common language where we help translate those objectives into data objectives that will become the people objectives. So it's contributing to that understanding, that clarity overall of the strategy, and that transparency also on the ongoing initiatives. So if we are able to push that literacy program, everybody is at the same page, so everybody can understand why and the path where we are going.
Yeah, okay. No, that's a good precision. That's, for me, that's what I had in mind also in understanding the what, but I think there is more to that in terms of also, but we'll come to there. I think there is a feedback loop concept also there, because it's kind of the more people are literate, the more they will also fuel some insights on the strategy or some evolutions or some way to improve. So that's part of a virtuous loop, basically. And so facilitating adoption, helping delivering better, and then helping driving even more innovations or more change. I think that's a direct connection to our next point, which is roles, and how do because sometimes it's the same, the kind of the literacy organization is kind of separate from the data strategist. And so at the end, so maybe if you have a take on that, how would you make the link between the roles? So what does it mean for people, individually, instead of not only about how we train them, but who is responsible for what, in a way?
Yeah, and that's a part where also the program is helping, and it's very important to be fully aligned with the strategy, because if you are creating silos of organization with separate roles between strategy, literacy, governance, that's where you're losing people also of what their purpose, what they should be doing. So it's very important that the literacy is helping to communicate about roles, but it's important that roles are taken into account with the strategy, because you want everybody to be in the same team. So you want data strategists and data analysts to help design and execute the strategy, but you want also your data champions that are almost all of the time in the business to promote that literacy and the values behind them. And then you want your stewards, your governance team, your data engineer, and your data scientist to operate that strategy by creating new pipes, creating new dashboard, new data product, and that's making sure that we have an overview of all the roles and we know how they are all working together. And clearly, we should avoid having duplication in roles or overlapping in terms of responsibility between roles, because we know we will not be efficient. We will find people that are doing the same task over and over across different departments.
Yeah. So if I reformulate, so what you say that on one hand, yeah, we need to avoid silos, because otherwise we do things and they're both overlapping or not going the same direction, which I don't know which one is worse. But I also like the idea that it means that part of the roles in your operating model, you need to give people missions toward data strategy and toward data literacy. And so everyone, you need to ask yourself the question, what is his or her responsibility toward the literacy program in terms of, as you said before, enablement or support, or in terms of delivering trainings maybe to someone, but also being a mentor. I think that's yeah.
And on that, I have a question maybe for you, because I see that trend that historically we were separating a little bit data management and the analytics, and more we are talking now about data and analytics as a whole, and clearly it impacts the literacy, it impacts also data governance, but it also impacts a lot data strategy, because now we need to think not just about the data analytics part of it, but the full end-to-end life of use case, and it's driving a lot the strategy part.
Yeah, so for me, I would almost say that having only data strategy as in alone is a mistake, and has been a mistake all the way, because the value always comes from how people use data. So it could be analytics, or it could be dashboard, it could be self-service, whatever. But that if you don't have the usage as part of the strategy, then you miss a big part of it, and that's probably again a cause of failure of many even BI strategies. If you go back in the time, or people have built stuff, and the usage part has been sometimes missing, and too much focus on great things for engineering, like building data modeling and data quality and stuff. But the world has proven that it's not enough to deliver the value and to get adoption of those things. So that's why, and I believe it's key. And we also see that with GenAI today, because GenAI has been a huge accelerator of awareness and will, from people to do things. So a lot of people were had no interest in the data strategy at all forever. They didn't see the value. Now they're asking stuff, and so but then you can educate them, and it's a for me, I look at it as it can be a threat, but a huge opportunity to train people and to educate them on, okay, you want that, that's awesome, but then this is what it drives. And this is where having all the people being aware of those different things, both being aware of the strategy and being aware of what it means in terms of literacy and in terms of maturity assessment is really key. So for me, it's critical to link both. Each time I see a data strategy that is just data, I'm freaking out, because for me it's a huge threat on the value of those investments and on how do you know that you're not. It's like driving in the dark, and the more you go, the more you accelerate, but you have no idea if you have a wall in front of you or if you have a and if it's useful at any time. So that's that's a big one. Yeah.
And it's like for me a plain crew. As you mentioned, we don't want to exclude any roles from either the data strategy or the literacy. The whole crew is serving a purpose, and we want them all to work together so we can arrive to the destination.
Yeah, sure.
So not excluding any roles from any of the parts is very key.
Definitely. So one topic, and I think we discussed together, but I've been discussing a lot of people is the data quality question. So everyone knows that data quality is in the way. Everyone knows that data quality is a big obstacle to, and many people say you won't deliver GenAI if you don't have good quality. But on the other hand, there is no direct link between the effort you put on a pure data quality program and how it's going to deliver any value. Because most of the time, unfortunately, the effort is not put at the right place or with the right understanding of how that quality is going to improve in any way the actual use case you have. And sometimes it's not the same for all use cases. So obviously, it's not about saying that you shouldn't do anything about data quality, but it's more to say if you don't have a purpose for it, a clear purpose about how people are going to actually use the output of it, then maybe it's good, maybe it's not, but it's kind of a luck game, like I play and maybe I win, and that's, you want to avoid that. So that's your alignment point. You want to have everyone making sure that you put the effort on the right direction, because at the end, instead of having the CFO looking at your data quality program as a costly exercise, it will be looked at as oh, that's awesome. We could do that, and that's a real game changer.
Yeah, and clearly it's linked also to the last synergy we mentioned is that feedback loop. And data quality is a great example on that feedback loop. It's making sure that the strategy, the literacy is the line of what we are doing. And the feedback loop in data quality is very key. When we are improving, cleansing, how do we go back to the source of data? How we go back to the business people entering the data to make sure they don't make the same mistake again the next time. So yeah, it's
yes. So that, yes, that notion of feedback loop is really important at all level. Obviously, you need feedback loop on the data literacy program, because you need to be able to. And I like your image that it's a continuous game, and because it's not like one day people are not literate and the day after they are like magic, because there are new technologies, new even the company evolves or the use cases evolve, and so it's an ongoing stuff. But I think it's the same in your career. Everyone, if you don't learn continuously, somehow you're not you're more regressing than progress, making any progress. It's not even steady. You're walking backward. So that's the good one. But then you need to continuously improve that program. That means even I tend to think that the data literacy program is a product in itself, or a portfolio of products in itself. With you need to prioritize your effort. You need to have a life cycle. You have all the product management principles that are part of what I usually talk about in the data strategy, apply to data literacy. So it's you could have after data products, you can have your data and AI literacy as a product, because that's a real product, and because it's an investment and something that have a lifetime. Maybe you are going to discard some part of the program at some point because it's not useful anymore. Maybe you're going to redo them, and so on and so on. So that's and to do that, you need to inform it based on the strategy and its own evolution. And on the other hand, I think we touched on it before, is that the strategy itself is is evolving based on external factors, macroeconomics, based on internal factors, how the company evolves and strategy changes, or M&A, acquisition and things like that. But it's also evolving with the maturity.
Yes.
And so the more the maturity and so the literacy of the different people internally will grow, the more it will have an influence on the strategy, and maybe something that were undoable 12 months ago are now very much possible because it's because you have the skills, or you have people are ready for it, and I like when we do a prioritization of initiatives. I know that there is usually something like a readiness factor. How are you ready to do the change to make that initiative adopted? Or it could be readiness from the technical side, or readiness from the people side. And so so I've simplified a bit, but that's the idea.
And clearly that part is key. How can you make sure you want to start an activity of your data strategy if the people are not ready to start that activity? So you want to assess your workforce and know they can do the project, because you don't want to put them in difficulties. If people are put in difficulties, they are, of course, not pushing the project forward, and it have more risk to fail. So that feedback loop is very key, in the two parts.
It's so that's that's really important for me. And so maybe a side question that pops here is that how, and maybe that's an opinion, or I don't know. Everyone is complaining about the skills shortage. It's hard to hire people, and so it's it's kind of in the way of the ambitions of the different organizations, that skills shortage. I always tend to believe that the data literacy program or the investment there it's not a short-term solution, but it's a resilient solution to not focus on skills today, but say skills don't exist, we can build them. It will make some time, but it's not like it's not an excuse in a way, to not move forward.
Clearly, and the data literacy program is a clear way to make sure you are not dependent from that external pool of resources. You are able to create them. And also, it's important to understand that we can catalyze them from existing resources. We see that since a while in the banking area or other industries, you have people having the knowledge. They know their stuff, they know their data. Most of the time, they just don't know about the digital, IT, and data manipulation. And you can train them, and they can make great data stewards, great data officers, and creating this kind of academy, you are making sure you will not lack of any resources in your future project. So it's very key, and having a good feedback also with HR towards your data strategy, you are aware of your needs. So you can say, I need more resources into that, more people into that, because I want to trigger a program. So having that view of what is going up in terms of strategy is really key in terms of planification for the company.
Yeah, no, that's and I'm fully in line with that again, because that's I think obviously sometimes you really need some skills, but you can maybe find them punctually with going through partners, through service companies and so on, that will help you punctually. But I think the fact to grow on the transformation internally, and to say you're going to grow technical people to be better with business and to extend their technical scope, you're going to grow business people to be better with data and maybe with some technical skills. So that looking at that is a let's say midterm game, but something that has a real impact in achieving the transformation sometime. And that's where the literacy program is key, but also that's where it has to be something just concrete to succeed. So it and really pragmatic. So yeah. Do we have? I don't think we have any question on that part. I think maybe always on that feedback loop. I think one question I have sometimes is how important is it? In the IT world, we love certification. Like giving badges to people in terms of saying that. So I was wondering how important it is to to certify people, because to give you my opinion first, in a way you could say I don't really care, as long as people can do their job on the day-to-day and so on. Maybe we don't care about that. On the other hand, it gives them value. So I'm curious about how you use certification as part of the data literacy program.
Yeah. So clearly, in terms of concept and naming, I will keep the certification name for certification on tools. They are important. They are key to understand that someone is skilled and can use the tools. But I would prefer the term we used earlier about readiness. We want our people to be ready. And for me, it will be more valuable to be able to evaluate if people are ready than just to be certificated or stamped within the organization. So in terms of definition and formalization, I would prefer that term of the readiness of people. But yeah, we want to be able to assess, and we want to know who is ready for what activity, because we know that the onboarding, the transition will be easier. And clearly we will have more success with that. So it's important we know the state of our workforces and resources to not put them in a hard position. And certification helps, especially the tool certification, also methodology certification. But for me, yeah, there will be a part of the readiness of the resources.
And sometimes I feel it's a way to reward people, because the badge internally readiness works, but externally, at some point people have a career or whatever, or they want to have bragging rights on LinkedIn, or and so and I know some people who are like certification competitors, they have like they're paying them. So I don't know how useful it is to reward people with awards, with like certificates as kind of a word, saying you can shine within your organization or outside because you have reached kind of certain stuff. So I don't know how, if you feel that it's useful or just why not, but
it's important. Recognition is very important. We need to recognize the value of those roles and what they bring towards the business objectives and the strategy. But there is also other ways to prove the recognition. But yeah, it's a nice way also to putting people on the stand and display that they did a good job. But sometimes the simple things as just saying to them, you did a good job, is a nice way also to prove that.
Yeah, so what you mean, yeah, okay, fair enough. So maybe the thing is that maybe that's a good opportunity to discuss with HR and align on how you want to reward people, or how you want to make sure at least the reward could be just moving forward in your career or having the job you want and so on. But maybe it's a tool to have, but it's and maybe it's a good how to say transition to our next topic, which is like how you measure success and what are your metrics. And I know that I always insist on avoiding vanity metrics. So and maybe the badly used certificates is a vanity metrics, because sometimes you see that people are certified on technology that are actually maybe not good on it. But so that's a key one. So and that's where we need that link between the strategy and the literacy program, because the literacy program alone is hard to measure success if you can't link that back to the strategy in a way. And so, but still the question is, how do we say that we're going well, or how do we say that we did succeed in a way? So
and on that part, maybe, yeah, clearly one thing we see in common from strategy and literacy is the way to gather those feedback. And it will be more impactful to see the level of adoption, to have feedback by maturity questionnaires on both acculturation and strategy. We will probably be better and successful in the calculation of a good KPI on that measurement of progress or success than trying to calculate ROI based on the values in euros or financial economics criteria. So making sure we are able to gather those bits of feedback and information and calculate concrete KPIs from them can be very decisive in that measurement of progress. Knowing that if we have a feedback from someone that have followed a training and is happy about his training and say it will be useful for him, will have a better impact, and we know it's a concrete impact than trying to calculate an impossible ROI over my whole data quality activities, for example.
Yes. Okay. So obviously, I mean, surveys and things like that are a good one. So I know that I try to. I mean, I always see bias sometime in there. In the sense that if people are happy, it doesn't mean it will deliver any value except their happiness, which is a good one. So it's always about something in the middle. Obviously, if you go into all the details of measuring the individual value of all pieces you do, it's way too complex. But that's why what I always try to do is to go back to that strategic level to say, if we look at an initiative or a use case, we should be able to measure value. I mean, when I say that, and it's not necessarily financially, it could be just what is the measure of success for that? Is it we are more efficient? We have less, let's say, churn of clients. We have a better acquisition. We have less defaults in our processing. I mean, it can apply to any part. So you have those things which are how do your impact, and this is why you need the link with analytics and AI and usage and so on, because you need to be able to know and have some quantification, maybe not purely scientifically, but maybe reported by business users or by users on the field on that. So that's very important, because then at least you have a clear communication to the executive committee, to the business leaders on, we did that and it enabled that. And if you want to do the dollar amount exercise, you can do it with the CFO because they know how to translate those gains with that. And for me, it's a CFO exercise in a way. It's a finance exercise. You don't need to articulate that to every single user in the company saying you help you're winning money is not what is going to not drive anything for them individually. So it's more, but as part of that, then it's easier to at least first qualitatively articulate how did data quality help there. You don't necessarily need to quantify a bit, but if you want, you can always put a weight, like don't go into a complex metric, but saying at least, or you can just put it binary saying, if we didn't do things on data quality anyway, it would not have been possible. So that's at least as a first step, a huge step forward to be able to articulate how what you did was successful or not, and what made the difference. So I think that measurement is key, and this is how you avoid vanity metrics, because you will find metrics that care to people, but you will be able to have some kind of connection with how did they actually have an impact on an outcome. And that's where you need to make sure that if your metrics don't have a direct link to the outcomes, then probably you're looking into vanity metrics. So I know, for example, I had discussion with people on a usage metric, of something, and sometimes it can be misleading. I believe that in many cases, it's a very good leading indicators of value. If you have a dashboard, if people use it, at least honestly it delivers value, because the first factor of failure for dashboards or things is people don't use it. So
if they are not using it, that means you don't need to run it.
Yes. So in that way, it's pretty simple. No usage, no value. If there is usage, then you could be a bit more changing and say, yeah, but is it really driving value? And then you can be is it driving decisions? And then we can move to more subtle things. But then you can say, if people don't use it, is it because they've not been trained properly? Is it because it's inaccurate? Is it because whatever? But then you have a root cause, and then anyway you can kill it and go back to the drawing board to start again.
Yeah. There is another way for me that is nice to measure progress and value is most of the time, but just putting simple words before we start an initiative, and then doing a small retrospective of those checkbox we put at the start and just checking them or not checking them and why. and it's a nice way also to formalize and put progress into things. Okay, we maybe not check all the boxes of the 10 we described for that data quality or data master data initiative, but at least we know where we improved, where we progress, and what we achieved. And that's most of the time, even an exercise that not so much initiatives are doing. But formalizing that progress is a nice way to start also.
Yeah, sure. And for me, yeah, definitely. That's why I say if you define the expected outcomes, you need to be able to check afterwards that you achieved that. And maybe if you didn't achieve all of it, it doesn't mean you failed, but it means you have a fair assessment and a fair discussion of can we call it success or not, and can we do what can we do next to improve on that. So that's I think that's a good one. So actually, we have a question from Tatiana from before. So I'm going to put it on. Sorry, I missed it. Maybe it came a bit late. It's back to something you mentioned before, Frédéric. It's back to that question of readiness. So how do we define readiness as it experiences the combination with training? How do we ensure readiness for a first mission? So good question. Thanks, Tatiana.
Yeah, and on that part, it was also an idea I had in the measurement of progress. We want basically by those simple factors of what were the expectation of that project or initiatives, what we succeed, if we are able to attach them also to the literacy program and basically the people that were participating in that project, we can, like a video game, improve their level, check their skills and competencies. And when the readiness can be just a composition of multiple success, knowledge and skills that are being validated by real world experience. So then you can be ready for the next project and be flagged as ready. So that feedback loop also help a lot in that readiness. We hope that the objectives and the expectation of one project can also be applied to the people on that project. So the next time we know to which level of readiness they are up to. So yeah, it's very key to link also project, not just only the training and the tool certification, but also to link the real project, the real activities that people are doing for how long, for how many months, at which position, because that will be activating the readiness of the resources on the project.
Sometimes I feel like if someone is not fully ready, it's not necessarily in the way. It just means that you need to know how much you're going to care about that person, either because it's a person developing the use case or using it afterward. It means you're going to be very careful about that to provide the right support, the right guidance, and so on. And then at the end you will be a better shape to assess if he's ready for the next one. I think that's your point, because I think don't overthink the readiness for the first one, but more assess if there is a risk. It's like a risk assessment, and then make sure that you have the right setup to support people if you monitor that they have weaknesses or lack some skills or capabilities in the context.
And that's where you can rely and link that to useful resources, useful means you can provide to that resources to be more ready, even if it's not 90% ready.
Yeah. Great. Thanks, Tatiana, for the question. I think we're going to the end of that discussion. So maybe a quick conclusion on my end, and I will obviously let you close the discussion, Frédéric. But so again, we think literacy is key, because this is how we get our people on board. This is how we get success. This is how it's like the fuel of the transformation in a way. So you need to invest in there, and obviously all of that can't be done without clear strategic goals. So this is where you need to align that with your data and AI or digital transformation strategy, because that's what is going to define where you want to go. That's where to define concrete goals for the people, concrete ways to prioritize things, and concrete way to make the literacy program concrete. So you can't think about one without having the other. If you have a data strategy, if you have an AI strategy that doesn't have a literacy dimension in it on how it's going to impact literacy, you're probably going to fail because you're going to deliver stuff that no one is going to use, or you're not going to be able to deliver. So that's a given. And on the other hand, if you build your literacy program outside of that understanding of the business value and how you prioritize, you're going to burn a lot of money in a useless way. And you're going to, and I've seen organizations that paid a huge, I'd say, debt on that, because it was a negative experiment. They spent a lot of money to train a lot of people, and what they remind is that it was just a useless expense. And so next time you want to do it better, then you need to respend on it. So that's a debt, and that debt is hard to recover from. It's always, it's easy to convince people the first time, but the second time, it's hard. So hopefully we gave you some good, how to say, tips and reasoning also to do that. But for me, it's critical, I would say.
Yeah. And on my side, to conclude, we all know that data is at the core of tools, process, and people. And we know that tools are evolving a lot. People, process can change. So we need the data literacy to make people to be the connected dot when the process or the toolings are changing. And by aligning the literacy with the data strategy, that's where we are keeping the ecosystem in the continuity. That's counting on people that will make sure that this data journey is during in the time and not just be a one-time effort. So yeah, that will be the key cornerstone of making sure that we adapt, and the strategy can adapt of the two other cornerstones changing over time.
Yeah. No, great. So thanks a lot, Frédéric, for the discussion today.
Thank you, Nicolas.
Really enjoyed it, and hope you learned a lot of things. I did, and hope it was fun. And please, if you have any question on any of the topic, please reach out to Frédéric or myself. We are very reachable on LinkedIn, and it will be a pleasure to continue the discussion. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Good evening.
See you soon. Thanks, Frédéric.
Bye-bye.